Hi guys, it's Tomasz from Polsat Games, and today I have a pleasure of being joined by Maximillion Cooper, the founder of Gumball 3000. It's really nice meeting you.
Likewise, good to be here.
Okay, I wanted to start off with a little bit of a backstory of what Gumball 3000 is for people that may not know it yet.
Yeah, well, it's a lifestyle brand that started back in 1999, and once a year we organize an incredible kind of car rally that combines music concerts, fashion, music, cars, kind of all together really, and we explore the world, do a different route every year.
Mm-hmm. So from what I've read, the number 3000 stands for the number of miles that you have to...
Sort of. A slightly, it's actually not. It's sort of, the 3000 for me was because I started the company in 1999, when everyone was talking about the year 2000, so I wanted to create a lifestyle brand of the future. So it was actually for the future.
Well, and I guess it's working out well since you're continuously doing it for over 20 years.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, you know, rallies from, Miami to Ibiza and all that stuff, it's quite an, let's say, a big achievement to do.
Thank you, yeah. I mean, we've sort of, it's funny, you know, when I first started it, there was really nothing else that existed sort of like it at all, and you know, in the last 2 decades, there's lots and lots of car rallies all around the world now, which is great. It kind of highlights the genre, but it kind of pushes me to do something a little bit special every time and keep sort of building the Gumball brand, really.
Well, because now you can say about Gumball 3000, it is a brand.
Yeah.
But it didn't start as a, let's say, this big event. It was more towards the people you knew.
Yeah,
friends,
I mean,
right?
it came about because my background was a combination of sort of racing cars and fashion and actually skateboarding. So those were my sort of kind of passions at that time. And I just tried to kind of invite friends of mine that were sort of quite influential and prolific in those areas, bring them all together, put them all on a road trip together, and it created something quite unique.
But when was the point, the breaking point, let's say, for Gumball 3000 to become more mainstream and less of this thing?
Yeah, well, the first sort of 3 years of the event were really an event, like you say, just for the drivers, for sort of friends really of mine. And we started to get a bit of media attention, and in the UK we got covers of magazines like GQ and Esquire and FHM. And then by 2001, we'd kind of created such a noise that MTV got in touch with us and said, hey, we'd like to film this. So we filmed a 1-hour Gumball special for MTV US, and it was following mostly all the Jackass guys who were kind of quite famous, quite big at the time, Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O and so on. And that show was so successful, that Gumball special in the US, that we signed a 10-year deal with MTV for them to televise it every year and document it as a sort of 6-part series and a docu-film and bring on all the MTV celebrities. So, you know, from Travis Barker from Blink-182 to, all the MTV sort of stars, Exhibit, who had Pimp My Ride and various other shows, really. So we became a kind of a melting pot for sort of, you know, celebrities and a bit of a sort of what we call a bucket list of an event that sort of, I guess, people that are quite successful in whatever field they're in wanted to take part in.
Okay, so I was wondering, I'm not the youngest person myself, but I'm 22.
Yeah.
I was wondering, who was the youngest and the oldest participant in the rally, and did you have a chance to meet them, and if so, who are they? I
mean, I meet everyone. I still sort of play the host. You know, that's kind of my, you know, how I approach that week. I drive in the event as a sort of a participant, but I'm sort of hosting everyone. So, yeah, the youngest is a good question. I think when we do the US, 21 is like the youngest, just because of access to venues and so on. But in Europe, actually, last year, the friend of mine who's a very famous sort of music producer called Swiss Beats, he brought his son for his 18th birthday on the rally, and it was sort of his son.
Good birthday there.
His son just graduated from high school in the States and turned 18, and that was his dad's gift to him to say, hey, come on a road trip with me and across Europe, which I'm sure was a great father-son bonding kind of experience.
Yeah, that's a lifetime adventure, let's say.
Yeah, and then the oldest, we had a gentleman many years ago. I mean, we have all ages. I mean, I would say we're always from sort of early 20s to sort of late 60s, let's say, all pretty much, you know, every year. We did have someone who was late 70s, who was actually quite a sort of famous old aristocrat in England called Lord Montagu. And he drove a 1920s Bentley in the rally at mid-70s in age as well
And
when he did it.
He did complete it.
He did.
All 3,000 miles.
All 3,000 miles of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering, just touching back on the thing you said, with all those differences and troubles getting through borders and problems, is there a country or a region on your bucket list that you still want to go and experience during the Gumball 3000 rally?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've explored most of the world, but there's still a huge part of it that we haven't. So I think we've actually covered every country in Europe apart from Portugal and Iceland, I believe. So we've done Europe, let's say. I would definitely like to do a little bit more of sort of Southeast Asia, and the one area that we haven't done is South America. So, you know, take the rally to Brazil one year and finish in Rio, something like that would be great.
But I guess during the planning you have to, well, be aware of the, let's say, condition of the roads, for example. There are many troubles and problems that you have to sort out.
There's so many kind of things to consider, you know. I mean, it's sort of, you know, even on a, let's say the basics of driving from A to B, you know, you got to make sure there's hotels that are nice enough, big enough at each location, that there's, you know, sort of cities that geographically are the right location almost, and as you say, you know, the roads and everything en route, there's huge parts of the world that I'd love to take it to, like, you know, India and Africa and whatever, but maybe their infrastructure is not quite, you know, not quite there at the moment. It's getting there, so I'm sure we will at some point.
So just diving deep into the whole Gumball thing, we started off with the challenge of just completing 3,000 miles, but I guess for you, the whole planning thing could be a bigger challenge of that.
Yeah, and you know, myself and my team sort of work on each rally for sort of, you know, 2+ years really. So, you know, we have a lot of sponsors, a lot of partnership deals, and so obviously those sort of, if we're signing a sort of 2-3 year agreement with someone, they want to know what we're doing for 2 or 3 years. So that sort of forces you anyway to kind of look ahead. But actually, as we've grown, the sort of the infrastructure of what the event has grown as well. So, you know, in the early years, we were just sort of cars turning up to a city and parking on display and you know, maybe doing a party in a nightclub or something. You know, now the outdoor production could be putting on a music concert for 100,000+ people that night. So that comes with it, all the logistics of, you know, stewards and marshals and, you know, all the production for the staging and the sound and lighting and everything that goes with that. So, you know, it's become a sort of a rolling festival.
Rolling festival.
Yeah.
That's a good name to catch the whole magic of it. And I was wondering, what is the magic ingredient, let's say, the thing that sets apart Gumball from all those other rallies? Because you're the biggest one, you're the most successful one. And I know chef shouldn't, you know, spill his beans and talk about secret ingredients, but what's the most important thing in Gumball 3000 for you?
I think for me, there's a few ingredients really that make it unique, but I think it's sort of probably its eccentricity and eclectic nature, you know, from, you know, participants being sort of, let's say, all walks of life, from, you know, graffiti artists and skateboarders to sheikhs and oligarchs and, you know, .com founders, and it's a melting pot of kind of all industries with that sort of common denominator that people pretty much, you know, have some element of success in whatever field they're in. But equally the cars reflect sort of that diversity as well. You know, I'm equally happy to have, you know, a vintage car, a 60s American muscle car next to a Lamborghini or whatever. So it's not a supercar event at all. And even though there are some beautiful, amazing supercars in it, it's the kind of the almost the humor of having a sort of a Bugatti next to a Mini, next to a, you know, Rolls Royce, next to a E-Type Jaguar or something is what makes it kind of quite special.
Yeah, I remember you talking about in one of the podcasts about acquiring the F1 team.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, maybe after all those years, does this thought cross your mind?
It does, actually. And there's definitely, you know, been very fortunate that in recent years we start to sort of, you know, the company's grown a lot and you know, we're turning over more money, and there's chances that sort of pose themselves to me in recent years about potentially, you know, sponsoring a current Formula One team or co-owning a team. And so it's still kind of, you know, in my vision a little bit. And I'd like to make an impact in Formula One, definitely, and bring some sort of, you know, fun, younger, cooler, kind of different attitude to it than the other sort of race teams.
Okay, let's say you own a Formula One team. What drivers from the current roster would you like to have?
Oh, I think probably Lando.
Yeah, Lando.
You know, he's cool and he's into his esports as well.
Yeah, he's streaming on Twitch for the last year. He was
I think he's great and probably I'd probably say George Russell.
George Russell.
Yeah.
Well, it's a tough competition. They're driving for the best teams right now, or maybe in the upcoming years. Since
I think we're going to see them kind of, you know, work their way through the ranks and sort of, you know, maybe in the next couple of years, Lewis will sort of stand down as being the champion that he is. And
there's just something about British drivers, you know. I remember you talking about James Hunt. For me, it was Robert Kubica from Poland in the early or the late 2000s. Yeah. But British are just built different, let's say.
Yeah. Somehow we've had a lot of success in motorsport in general across the years. So
Yeah, because supporting a team, it needs a brand. And when I think about those brands, of course, the Red Bull, the Ferrari stand out. Yeah. And I was thinking about Gumball 3000. I guess you would be really successful with so many people following you already. And that's why I wanted to touch on the video games aspect. Yeah. Because Gumball 3000, you developed the game. It was premiered in the 2000s. Yeah. But there is an upcoming title.
There is. Exciting,
Yeah, for the 25th anniversary. Yeah. So in the 2.5 years' time. Could you tell me?
2024 is our 25th anniversary, and actually it's sort of by coincidence, really. But yes, earlier this year we signed a deal with a Polish games studio to develop a Gumball 3000 racing game, and or real world, open world sort of racing, social, you know, experience basically, and I mean, it will take, as you can imagine, it takes a couple of years to sort of develop and everything, but it will come out in 2024, and like I said, that coincidentally really is our 25th anniversary, so it's a nice milestone to release such a great product.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and well, taking part in Gumball 3000 is a rather expensive, let's say, thing. So games are accessible to everyone. Yeah. And I was wondering, are you aiming to have this Gumball experience put into video game so everyone can experience it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be trying to mirror the real event, sort of, you know, too matter of fact. It's more sort of about, let's say, creating the Gumball world that kind of, you know, we can have a little bit of fun with as well, because, you know, you can in the game, you can race and you can get in a bit of trouble, and, you know, whereas real life, we can't really do that. We're not supposed to do that. So
it's illegal, we don't support that.
Yeah. So the game allows us to have a little bit more fun and, you know, and create that sort of same spirit as we've just sort of talked about, and make it very different to any of the sort of the games that are on the market at the moment, and bring that sort of, you know, slightly more eclectic nature to a driving game, but certainly elements of you know, there's some fantastic games out there. You know, I mean, the likes of you know, the Forza Horizon series and so on, and you know, there's elements of that which obviously are quite inspiring. But I also like the other genres of gaming that've been really successful. So the sort of the Fortnite and Call of Duty kind of, you know, games that I think, if we can include in our game an element of sort of, you know, sort of last man standing as a bit of a racing element to it, and then have these sort of great sort of, you know, a great sort of story mode to it as well, where we can incorporate lots of sort of maybe cameos from some of the celebrities that drive in Gumball, and you know, I mean, how cool would it be to be able to kind of, you know, live in that Gumball world.
Sounds really
sort of
ambitious.
Metaverse, really, you know, and have some fun.
Yeah, so it sounds really ambitious, but I think the most impactful factor for me will be it's going to be a multiplayer game, right?
Yeah.
So you will be able to meet some, you know, people like you, but maybe also the participants of Gumball 3000 and
definitely.
All those celebrities.
Yeah.
So that sounds really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, within the game, we'll obviously there'll be, you know, we'll be able to schedule races and you know, multiplayer kind of events and stuff, really. So I think that'd be great. And like you say, it's sort of, Gumball as a event itself, it's very small really. It's only 100 cars take part, or 120 cars or whatever every year. So this is one way where sort of Gumball can be in everyone's household and they can all enjoy sort of a taste of it.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, it's really important for you to share this experience with everyone.
Yeah.
So everyone can feel the spirit of Gumball, right?
Yeah.
You touched on some games that I wanted to ask you about because, well, I know that you've been a sportsman.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe FIFA, maybe racing games, but what about other genres? Do you have some favorite games?
You know what, I'm unfortunately, I haven't really kind of immersed myself into playing games. I haven't had the time in the last few years, but I kind of live sort of slightly through my 15-year-old son who plays Fortnite all the time and a little bit of several different games really, but I think Fortnite is where he sort of spends most of his time.
Yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit about sim racing games and racing games, if you tried them, and what's the experience like in comparison to driving a real car?
You know, I have experienced them, but I've really only experienced them sort of, let's say as a guest at certain events and things, and I'd actually really like to sort of spend a few hours or a day sort of actually kind of experience kind of a sim racer properly and feel that experience. And I mean the times I've had a little go, it's incredible. The evolution of what those simulators are in games terms is just incredible now.
Yeah, from my own perspective, I can tell you that I didn't have a chance to drive a Lamborghini or something, but I was a passenger.
Yeah.
And just sticking in it's something else. And sim racing is kind of like this. And I know that you joined forces with GR Games that will be developing your game. And they also have this focus on sim racing games. So I was wondering what part do they play in the whole idea of creating Gumball, and how do they lead from there?
I mean, good question, though. So we're still in the early stages of sort of, like I said, we sort of started the relationship really at the start of this year, and this last few months has been the sort of almost the early development stage. We're actually working on a prototype now, and so we're just still sort of figuring out that sort of the sort of what the game has to do, what it has to achieve. We're in this sort of year of this pre-stage. By next May, we'll have a sort of first prototype to kind of share with the world a little bit, and and go from there.
Okay. Do you work closely with some actual, racing drivers while developing the game? Because it usually is the first place where you want to go to actually ask them if the experience is like the real life.
I've got lots of sort of friends that are in the last couple of years have become, or people that have entered the rally. They're already kind of successful sort of e-gamers, and we'll use them as our sort of sounding board, really. When we get to that next stage and we can sort of share that sort of that prototype, or the demo version sort of can be played, and like I said, we've got sort of all the guys from FaZe and multiple other sort of esports teams that drive in Gumball, so they're the best people to kind of say, what do you think?
Yeah, talking about FaZe, what do you think about esports? Were they like contagious with their passion towards, rivalry in esports games?
I mean, the whole esports world is sort of, slowly kind of taking over. I think it's hard for people of slightly, that haven't grown up with esports, let's say, to kind of imagine how many people are playing, even the stadium type events now. The amount of fans that are coming to watch these events now even are sort of as big as any live traditional sport. So I think it's just an exciting sort of time, and I think the whole world is moving into this slightly kind of everything sort of in the last decade is up there in the cloud. All the gaming's are becoming sort of real world and more realistic in every element, and we're going into this world now of sort of NFTs and crypto and everything, and it's a good, exciting time for technology, I think.
Yeah, esports is growing really rapidly as an industry, but I think you're the best example of a person that traveled the world, experienced all of it, and you're okay with esports. You're actually interested by it, but there is nothing better than experiencing something in real world.
Oh yeah.
And just going out there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's the only downside to it, isn't it? You can sit in your, in your home, in your bedroom, and play all day, and sort of that's your life experience. You might become incredibly good at it, but you haven't been outside.
You have to balance it.
Yeah.
Just find the best of the two worlds. Yeah, that's something that some younger people struggle with, but I've got to tell you that just following the Gumball 3000 and learning all about it was a blast. Like, I would love to experience it myself, and I can't wait for the next Gumball even to come to Poland and maybe somewhere in the future take part in it.
It will. We'll keep you updated.
Okay, so you're the best example of a person that, I guess, followed their dreams and was successful, but did you have a backup plan?
No. I've never had a backup plan. No, no, but I'm sort of creative. So, I'm sort of grown up. My dad is an abstract painter, and I've grown up sort of loving the art world. And like I said, I did design at college. So I actually followed doing fashion design by a law degree. So you could say that's a backup, but I never actually intended to be a lawyer either. So if this hadn't worked, I'd probably still be in that creative world, really, of sort of, probably design and probably filmmaking. I love that kind of genre.
Filmmaking, yeah. That's an interest that we share then.
Yeah.
Would you like to have a Gumball 3000 movie somewhere in the future?
Yes, definitely. We've done, obviously, over the years, we've done countless sort of documentaries, docu-films, series on the real rally. But behind the scenes in the last couple of years, in the last couple of months, really, I've even had a bit more focus that we're actually developing a scripted version.
Maybe
that
a brand
that is a sort of thriller.
Okay, a brand like a Fast and Furious.
Yeah, but more sort of elements of that, but sort of maybe more sort of thriller sort of style.
Without cars jumping out of the planes.
Yeah.
Let's say underground.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a blast talking to you, and thank you so much for joining me. Of course, everyone, it was Maximillion Cooper. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course, see you next time.